Hi everyone, and welcome to the Week 11 recap of Educational Leadership Management and Program Assessment. So this week's focus was on digital strategies, which is essentially the focus of Assignment 2, where it's been identified through a review that you don't have an up-to-date digital professionalism and communication policy in the scenario. So this week we had a look and unpacked a few different areas in terms of digital strategies. And we looked at the fact that young children today, they're growing up in digital contexts. So we know that the children of today have been born into the digital age. And in most cases, they've used or been exposed to technology from birth. But what role does that make you play as early childhood leaders? So it's really important, I guess, that we cover off a few of these areas. And we started with ICT and learning. And the learning materials this week cover some of the key areas of concern regarding ICT and learning. And some of them you're probably all too familiar with. There's obviously cyberbullying is a common issue. I guess the time spent of children using devices and technology and perhaps not getting out and physically exercising or moving their bodies as much. But in terms of beyond those concerns, it's really important that we remember that technology and the use of technology, even from early childhood, is embedded in frameworks such as the Early Years Learning Framework. So it specifically includes the use of technologies in both outcomes 4, which is children are confident and involved learners, and outcome 5, which is children are effective communicators. So that's something really important that you can draw on for your policy. Now, the National Quality Framework, it doesn't have specific reference to technology, but the responsible and purposeful use of digital technologies, it's reflected in a variety of the quality areas, from ensuring a stimulating educational program to maintaining children's safety and well-being, all through to the collaborative partnerships with families and communities that are expected. And this draws me to the next point. So we did look as well at ICT and families. And last week we focused specifically on the importance of relationships, including those with families and community. So with ICT, it's a matter of thinking about how can we ensure it's used effectively. There is an expectation from families that technology may be used in one way or another, but is it suitable for all types of communication? And it's really important to think about, what about those without technology? There are many families who won't have the same access to technology. And so you need to be considering the fact that, is that necessarily going to be an equal opportunity for all families to access perhaps important information about their children and the learning that's occurring? We also looked at digital professionalism and ethical practices, which are really strongly linked there. And some of the key areas that we focused on were the use of personal accounts, consent and privacy, authorised educational platforms. But one of the main, really crucial, important things that we looked at was the notion of considering children's rights and their agency. You know, what's in their best interests. So sometimes we might be a little distracted by what the families want or what they expect. But at the end of the day, the children should be at the centre of all of the decisions that we make. And so we really need to ensure that there's some meaningful consideration and decision-making processes are occurring there where the ethical practices are considered. So that might mean, talking to your stakeholders. It might mean talking to your colleagues and having some really thought-provoking conversations about, are we just using technology for the sake of using technology? Is this the best choice for what it is that we're trying to achieve? And the last point here is really just a reminder for you all to make sure that you definitely read through the ECA statement on young children and digital technologies. It's a really, really important document that you should draw on both in your assignment and in your future practice as well. The statement, it sits within the context of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, as well as the ECA's Code of Ethics. And it does focus on a rights-based perspective for thinking about young children and digital technologies. So again, the child is at the center of all these decisions. And the statement, it provides an overview of existing research about young children and digital technologies in 4 key areas of importance in early childhood education. The first is relationships, there's health and well-being, citizenship, and play and pedagogy. And so within each area, there are guiding principles and practice advice, which is really useful, and I think you'll find it can actually benefit your policy. I think it's fairly logical and fairly easy to see how this week's topic relates to assignment 2. So I just wanted to finish up with this quote here, which I thought was really important to consider, in that there's no simple answer to understanding the role and optimal use of digital technologies with, by, and for young children in early childhood education settings. So it will be a grey area. It will be tough to make these decisions. But that's why we've really focused on equipping you with the analysis skills, the ethical considerations, the importance of stakeholders, as you navigate this area that can be quite difficult. But we do know that educators, and yourselves included, become quite skilled at working in partnership with children and families and making decisions in the best interests of the child. So that's really the most important thing. Now, where to from here? So next week, I'm sure you'll all be busy finalising your assignments, but we see the unit come to a close, and we'll be focusing on your professional growth and career planning as leaders in early childhood. So we're really looking forward to seeing your reflections on the discussion board. Now, make sure to reach out if you have any last-minute questions about the assignment. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you on the boards.